Well, welcome in everyone. This is Spitting Fire. We're stoked for the NFL divisional round. I'm Matt alongside Connor, and we're ready to go, Connor.
Let's go. I'm excited. Going to be some big games today. We got the Rams playing. I'm
Rams
hyped.
up
It'll be fun.
first.
Yep. Rams up first. I'm excited. This is going to be fun. I mean, they talk a lot about these games, but I feel like this is one of the most talked about specifically for that Jalen Ramsey versus Devonte Adams matchup. I think that's going to be so much fun to watch. And I don't know why, but I do feel good about the Rams in this game. What do you think?
I'm excited for that too, because we've seen him really handle the big receivers that were so much of a problem maybe 3 years ago when you didn't have those big corners to handle them. I mean, you had Richard Sherman, but there's a lot of talk in the league a few years ago, like, man, these big guys are just, no one's going to be able to handle them. And Jalen Ramsey's handled them every single time this year.
Yep.
And now we get to see him against a shiftier guy, probably the number one receiver in the league, but a little bit of a different type of receiver than a DK Metcalf.
Totally. Yeah. And I'm very interested too, because you look at Devonte Adams and he's best against press coverage, but that's what Jalen Ramsey does. So that's his strength. So it's fully strength on strength. I'm excited to see who kind of gets the better of that matchup. It should be a lot of fun. It's going to be exciting. They've played. So I've looked it up this week. They've played each other one time. So when Jalen was on the Jags, they played, but Jalen Ramsey for some reason was pretty much playing slot corner that whole game. So he did match up once against Devonte Adams. So that's not really a good comparison. So this truly is first time up against each other. And Devonte is so hot right now. He's incredible right now. He's unguardable, but if there's anybody you can guard him, it's Jalen Ramsey.
I love it. Well, that's a little taste of what we'll be talking about today, everyone. We're excited to get into the show, get into the games. But first, our sponsor, R&R Brewing. Connor's got the shirt on. Go get your R&R. Figure it out. We don't have the domain yet, but we will soon. So if you can't get on the internet, get to the Bay Area. Get to what? San Diego? Where are the other spots you can go to R?
You can go anywhere. Just call me and I'll figure it out. Leave a comment. When you leave your comment, I'll come get you some R&R Brewing.
Perfect. Love it. So it's Saturday morning. First up, 1:35 here on the West Coast. We've got Rams at the Packers, showing Green Bay -6.5. Who you got?
Rams. I think the Rams are they'll definitely cover. I'm biased, so I think they're going to win, but I think that it's going to be a close game. I don't see this as being Green Bay blowing them out. I think the Rams defense is so good right now. And even though they're a little banged up with Aaron Donald, like not 100%, he's still so good. And I think the Packers, what you got to worry about with the Packers right now is that their line is super banged up. Right. And so they lost
Bakhtiari's gone.
Yeah. And then they brought in Jared Veldheer, but then he's on the COVID list. So they don't have him. So they're going to have to shift people all around. Now they have Corey Linsley, who's awesome at their center. He's an all-pro center. But, I'm super interested to see how Aaron Donald does in this game, because if he can get to Aaron Rodgers, that's going to be the formula for winning this game.
Yep. I'm excited too. This might be the game I'm most excited for this week. I got the other side. I got the Packers straight up, and I got the Packers to cover. This was a tough one for me. I'm worried about it. I think the Rams defense is fantastic. It really is strength on strength, but I like that home field advantage for the Packers. And I've just seen them play well in too many of the bigger games on the second half of the season than I didn't see in the first half. Now, what's interesting, I think, is that this Rams team presents problems on that D-line, like you said, that the Bucs presented when they got out ahead of when the Bucs got out ahead of them. Aaron Rodgers had a pick six, and then they blew him out. So I think, like we said with the Tennessee-Baltimore game last week, if Tennessee can get ahead, they could win, you said, which ended up happening and then didn't happen.
Right.
But I think that could be what happens here, is if the Rams get ahead, they can win this game. But I think game script's going to matter a lot on this one.
Totally.
Especially
yeah.
Jared Goff at QB.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's 2 weeks away from breaking his thumb and getting surgery. So he's still fresh. I think the interesting thing is everyone talks about how Goff's bad in cold weather, and he totally is. But I think that this is one of those that they're going to just run the ball 50 times, right? And it's kind of what they did last week, is that they're going to run the ball a ton. I think even if it wasn't super cold, they would do that just because of Goff's thumb. But I think they're going to run the ball a ton. I've looked also, and it's not as cold as we thought. They thought it was going to be about 20 degrees at kickoff. And if it was a night game, it could have been even colder than that. It's going to be about 36, which is still, again, very cold, especially for a Southern California team. But it's not that 20 degrees. It's not going to be snowing. So I think, this is almost the best you could hope for if you're the Rams going into Lambeau. I don't think you can expect much better than this weather.
Right. And I 100% agree. Like, if you've ever been in cold weather, just been outside in cold weather, the difference between 35 and 20 is like the difference between 60 and 90.
Totally.
Like it really changes at those lower degree points. Every degree counts. I think the thing here is I just don't know if I trust Jared Goff in this situation. I think the other thing that was interesting is watching that Titans Green Bay game that I was so on the Titans for, that Green Bay just absolutely dominated, is the Titans were able to move the ball up and down the field, but they weren't able to convert in the red zone. So I think if you guys run the ball, the Rams, you're going to be able to get yards. You're going to be able to move the ball. But I think that comes down to, will Green Bay's defense bend or break?
Totally. And that's the issue, right? That's the problem the Rams have had a lot, is they get into the red zone, but they're not scoring touchdowns or kicking field goals. So I think it's going to be tough to beat Aaron Rodgers kicking field goals. I think they're going to definitely have to score some of those touchdowns, but I think it's definitely in play. Honestly, I think if the Rams win this game, I think they win the Super Bowl. And the reason I say that is, if they win this game, that means their defense truly is on another level. Right. Yep. Because it's going to be on the strength of their defense. And if they can do that, they will be that next level defense. And I've said this, but it really reminds me of that year the Broncos won. I think it was 2016 when the Broncos won the Super Bowl with Peyton Manning. And that defense really carried them through the playoffs and in the Super Bowl. And what was interesting is they talk, that's one of the best defenses all time. That was Wade Phillips's defense. That was really good. By EPA, which is expected points added. Basically, it's like the WAR version for football on a defense. Sure. The Rams defense this year is actually better than that Broncos defense. And so the thing you also saw at that time was happening with Rams is they got hot at the end of the year. And that's exactly what's going on right now. The Rams are so hot right now. There's so much swagger in that locker room that defense can shut down anyone. I think it's going to be a fun game to watch. It's really a cool feeling. And this probably better than anyone as a Steelers fan, because I feel like you have this every year. But just, I get excited to watch them play defense. Like, I'm hyped when this defense comes out. I'm excited, and that's fun because I haven't had that pretty much. Yeah, ever.
And the nice thing as a Rams fan is you get the consistency. So as a Steelers fan, I get no consistency. I get we're the best defense ever, like 5 sacks, 5 interceptions, and then we let up 49 points to the Browns. So
yeah. That's tough. Do we want to talk before we move on or talk anymore? Do you want to talk about that Steelers Browns game last week?
Yeah. So, I had the surgery. I was pretty fed up with everything. So I had my knee surgery. I'm sitting around. We did pretty well on our picks going into that game. I think I was 2-2-1 against the spread, 4-1 straight up. You were doing well too. We go into that game. We both say, Browns are going to cover. Well, you said Pittsburgh's going to cover. I said going to cover, but both Pittsburgh is going to win straight up. We sit down and before I know it, it's 21-0, 5 minutes into the first quarter. And honestly, I would say if you were any other franchise in the NFL, you would be like surprised. But if you follow Steelers fans and kind of our own blogs and recaps of games and stuff, it's like a joke, like, oh, this happened again. Because 3 years ago, we were a Super Bowl favorite and we lost to Jacksonville 50-40.
Right.
Coming off the bye as the 2 seed. That was the same year as the Jesse James infamous game against the Patriots. So there were funny memes going around of guys breaking TVs and freaking out and different things. But I just, and we'll put this in the podcast, Berg had me record a little reaction. So I'll put that in right here. I'm sitting here in my room right now and there's no words. Worst playoff deficit in history, most points scored in history by the Browns. And I'm frankly disgusted. Marquis Brown, you should be ashamed of yourself. You got a week off. You didn't have to go to Cleveland. And you throw it right over Big Ben's head. He's 6'4", 6'5". You throw it right over his head. Deontay Johnson. Should you even be on the field? Should you finish the game? Another drop that leads to an interception? And that defense, man. Some of those angles. The old Edmonds came back in the secondary, taking a terrible angle on that Landry touchdown. Chubb and Kareem Hunt running all over y'all like you haven't even played defense in years. It's disgusting. And you can see I'm all hollowed out inside. I don't even have anything to say. No emotion. It's all drained out of me. Nothing matters. And I did this take just for you, Berg. Okay, we just paused. Now we're back from the reaction. I just spliced it in. I had no life in me. It just sucked out, I couldn't get up. I couldn't break anything. I've been here before. I've gotten all emotional at 21. Now I'm 26 and I just can't give my life to that anymore. They've done too much to me.
Yeah, that was brutal. And like you were texting me being like, yep, that's exactly what you'd expect is your all pro center. You're the best center in the game to snap it over Ben's head when they've done that 10 million times first play of the game. It's like, of course that's going to happen. And
yeah,
it was funny when I called you, it was just like, you were just laughing. Like it wasn't even, that's truly what you're saying. It wasn't like you were shocked or mad or anything. You were just like, I don't even know what to say, just laughing about it.
Well, my thing is, I said, if there's a Super Bowl, if they make it to the Super Bowl, I'll go, it's like Ben's got this year left. Okay. He's going to play next year, whatever. But, it's hard to get up for this stuff when you've been to so I'm 0-3 lifetime at Steelers games. Right.
That's tough. Yeah.
Going to Steelers games, I'm 0-3 at Arizona, at Dallas, and at Pittsburgh. I haven't seen a team win in person. So that's obviously worse, especially when you're like 13. I remember like crying in the stadium in Phoenix. A drunk Arizona fan grabbed my terrible towel and ripped it in half.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So like those moments really as a child, they really shatter you a lot more than at 26 when the team just drops a dud against Cleveland and you're like, wow, this is the stupidest thing ever. When your all pro center Hall of Famer spikes it over Ben's head.
Well, and that was the first time Ben's ever lost to the Browns in Pittsburgh, right?
Yeah. He'd lost to them once before and he also had a tie, I think last year. So,
okay. Yeah. Oh, no, that was like 2 years ago because that was Hugh Jackson off of 1-31 or whatever. He had lost all those games in a row, and his first game not losing was just a tie to the Steelers.
Oh, it was 2 years ago.
Yeah. That was
hilarious.
Yeah, that was Baker's rookie year before he started. Tyrod was the starter that game.
Yeah. And then I think I was so much more attached to the team a few years ago with AB, Le'Veon, Martavis Bryant. It was such a talented team.
Yeah.
Compared to this team that played really well through a lot of the season, but wasn't as talented, that when the whole Jesse James thing happened. And then when you lose in the playoffs to New England, like 3 years in a row, it's a whole nother level of frustration.
Yep.
This is just stupid. But I mean, let's talk real quick. Steelers, what comes next? They got rid of the offensive coordinator, Randy Fichtner. Love that.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know. We'll just have to see what happens. I think the cap situation is interesting. They may not be able to bring back Bud Dupree, who is their other bordering on all-pro outside linebacker beside TJ Watt. They've got a lot of veterans. I mean, Pouncey and Ben alone count like something like 50 million against the cap, which is just crazy.
Yeah.
So we'll see what they do. They've got so many veterans, and I'm not sure they're going to bring them all back. I'm hoping they get rid of James Conner. He's just been, I love the guy. I love his story. I love battling back from leukemia, but he just hasn't gotten the job done on the ground. We need something higher end there. And it's been so easy for teams to pick up quality running backs. We'll see what the team looks like next year. I think Juju will be back, but we'll see. Season done.
Do you want Ben as your quarterback next year?
I do. Yeah. It's an emotional thing.
Yeah. And he really saved himself. He played pretty bad this year, but then he kind of saved himself by at least having a big game last week.
Well, I think what people think is that a few of the last weeks he called the plays instead of Fichtner when they were down. So in the Colts game, he called the plays, and there was a lot more intermediate and deep routes. And in this game, after it just exploded out of control, he called the plays. And 2 of the 4 picks were tips or freak picks.
Yeah.
And then 2 of them were bad. But again, 2 picks when you're throwing for 500 yards isn't the craziest thing.
Right.
So I thought he played pretty well. I'm biased, but I thought he did play pretty well. I mean, even if you rewatch the game, I think he played pretty well. Yeah. So I don't know. You got to give him one more year. We'll see what can happen. Last year, I actually got emotionally ready. I said trade for Tua or Deshaun.
Wow.
Obviously Deshaun, they wouldn't have traded, but I was ready to move off last year and do it, but now I'm not anymore.
Well, and I think that's kind of the point too, is with Ben, like, hey, do you start Ben next year? What's the alternative? I mean, Mason Rudolph's shown he's not great. I don't think, no one else on that team really is going to be anything special. So then it's like, okay, maybe you draft a quarterback this year, which I still think isn't a bad idea, just because Ben, even if he plays next year, doesn't have 4 more years, right? He has maybe 1 more year left in him.
Right.
So you probably should get someone in there, but yeah, I don't I don't know what your alternative is that's a better option than going with Ben next year.
And what's crazy is his arm. They were so concerned about the arm. He was releasing 2 seconds. He had the shortest release in the NFL this year. What was crazy is he threw like 65 times and his arm held up. 47 of like 65 nuts.
But I think that was a much bigger product, his short release time of they used those short routes as their run game. They didn't have a run game, so they had to do something for those easy throws to just get 3 or 4 yards on first down. I think that's what they had to do.
Yeah, and what's dumb is the running game actually decent in the game against the Browns, which is crazy to say.
Yep.
When it didn't matter, but you could say that was the scheme of the Browns defense, but I don't think so because they were getting yards in the first quarter. But right. I think, what was I going to say? I think that for the Steelers, last year was the chance to move off of everyone.
Yeah.
And now it's like, well, you have even more of a cap hit. Other teams aren't going to want to take all of that cap hit or restructure that themselves. So yeah, you don't have picks to trade the farm.
Right.
You got to just kind of roll with the veteran situation. You can get trapped in that. Like Indianapolis might be a little bit trapped because they have some really good players too. And they have Phillip Rivers, and you're kind of in that trap where you can't get that generational QB and you're kind of stuck.
Yeah.
I don't want them stuck, but I also don't want to just let go and have to rebuild. So
yeah, totally. The difference though with Indianapolis is that they have a ton of cap space. So that's the difference, is that the Steelers don't, whereas Indianapolis has a ton of cap space. Somehow, I don't know how they do it, but every year they end up with a ton of cap space. So it'll be interesting to see how that happens.
Yeah.
One other quick thing.
No, you go.
Did you see that the Dolphins, anonymous sources in the Dolphins locker room said that they don't have any faith in Tua?
I'm not surprised. I mean, Fitzpatrick was out with COVID when they needed him most in that Week 17 game at Buffalo.
Listen, multiple times Super Bowl.
Flores would have benched Tua for Fitzy again.
Yeah, like in the first quarter, he would have done it. Hey, but he's going to win multiple Super Bowls.
That's my bold prediction. Well, your bold prediction on the Kings is not looking so good since you.
It's a long season.
Hit it off last week.
It's a long season. We got a lot of time. I'm not worried.
Getting blown out a little bit. All right, listen. Anything more on the Tua thing?
Nope.
Okay. All right, let's get to it. Tonight, Ravens at the Bills. Showing 37 degrees tonight. What are they giving? They're giving Buffalo 2.5. I'm on the Bills. I'm on the 2 home teams today. I don't want to overthink this one. I didn't like the way the Bills played last week. And when we were texting, I was trying to convince you why that's why I felt good Pittsburgh would do well against them. It shows how biased I am, because I'm going to say, no, I'm not going to overreact to how the Bills looked last week against the Colts. I thought they were very big play dependent.
Yeah.
And Phillip Rivers really moved the ball on them. But I think the Bills are going to bounce back and have a really solid week like they did when they crushed Miami. And it doesn't mean they're going to crush the Ravens, but I think they're going to easily cover here and win this game at home.
Yeah, I definitely want that to be the case. I'm going to go with Baltimore, but the interesting thing about Buffalo last week is, yeah, they didn't necessarily look great, but if you look at their first 6 possessions, their average starting position was like their own 9-yard line, and their best field position was the 17. I remember it was like in the third quarter. I think it might've been the second half kickoff, where the announcers go, if they just take a touchback here, it will be their best starting field position of the game. And it's like, that's insane to me. And so the fact that a team can even be competitive with such bad field position like that shows how good that team actually played to end up winning that. So
good point.
I think that's, I hope Buffalo wins. I'm going to go with Baltimore. I think they've just been so hot that I'm going to keep going with them. They looked good last week. Lamar looked awesome. I will say, I think it was a big punk move after the game when they were not only just stomping on the logo. I don't even care about that. That's like whatever. But the game ends and Lamar just ran to the locker room. He didn't say good game. He didn't say what's up. He didn't do anything. And I thought about it and I was like, oh, maybe he's doing that because he doesn't want to get COVID from meeting other people like there's a chance. Lamar already had COVID.
Yeah.
So even if that was the case that he was like, oh, I want to be smart, I don't want to have any issues, he already had COVID. So it's not like he's worried about getting it. So I think that was just kind of a punk move that he ran off and didn't say good game. That's just what you do. Like, that's literally what you do every game is you go say good game to the other quarterback. And so I think that was a punk move. And so I hope Buffalo wins. I want Buffalo to win. I'm going to take Baltimore, though, in this game.
What about Tom Brady, though? He didn't shake. Did he not meet up with Jared Goff?
I think that was something like that. And I think that's
Nick Foles too, right? This year in the Chicago game.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean,
but
Brady's
the thing
also
is, Tom went other places on the field. He didn't just leave.
Right. And it's so Tom Brady. He's earned the right to not do that. Whereas Lamar Jackson is still young and needs to, he won an MVP, but it was his first playoff win. Like Brady can kind of do whatever he wants because he also did everything right for 18 years. And now if he's an old man and wants to be like, I don't care, then he doesn't care. But
right.
I think that's different.
I think I've been off Lamar since the first Steelers game this year when he was just having some of the worst turnovers and laughing on the sideline, throwing his hands up like, oh, what the heck? I'm like, dude, this is the NFL. You got to be mature. So I've had some yellow flags, not red flags, but at least some yellows thrown up ever since I saw some of his behavior on the sideline earlier this season, like that it wasn't his fault or whatever. We're so talented. We'll just bounce back from it. And
totally.
They did bounce back from it, but barely.
Right.
They were one game away. What were they? They were 7-5. Or were they 6-5? I think they won 5 straight.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
So they were on the ropes.
Totally. Yeah. And I mean, that's just like that he's interesting. I mean, he's obviously electric and one of the most fun players in the NFL to watch, but he's just not a great thrower of the football. And I think that's at some point, I feel like defenses are going to catch on or something. I don't know. I mean, he's so electric with the ball in his hands, but you got to be able to throw a little bit better to be successful in the playoffs. And I think it's going to come back to bite him at some point. And it might be this Bills game, especially because the Ravens have one good receiver, and that's Marquis Brown. And even he drops everything. And obviously Mark Andrews is really good too, but they have one good receiver. And it's like Tre'Davious White just locks down Marquis Brown.
Did you see Marquis Brown last week? Do you remember how he does not like contact? I've never seen a receiver who hates contact more. Dude, he goes down like more than I make fun of Devonte Johnson on the Steelers. Man, Marquis Brown, he'll run out of bounds like 5 yards before the guy gets there.
Well, he's so small. He's like weighs like
no, these guys are small. You got to be careful, but it's kind of a whole nother level. It's next level.
Yeah, he's fast though.
Yeah, and the thing is, these guys that are lean, kind of athletic machines, they're a little bit different build than like a Cole Beasley, who's kind of a thin muscle hamster, taking more shots. Julian Edelman, a little bit of a different build for a small guy.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so you got Ravens, I got Bills. Man, we're on different sides both games.
I like it.
Great to be there, Connor.
I like it.
We were in 100% agreement except for the Steelers-Browns game last week.
Dang. All right, yeah, I like this.
Okay, moving into Sunday, we got Browns at the Chiefs. Big line here, big line. Did you expect this big line when you saw it? Showing 10 to Kansas City. I am on the Browns. I'm not going to overthink this. Kansas City hasn't covered maybe there's 7 or 8 last games. Did you look at it specifically? They haven't covered in like 7 games, or they might have covered one of them.
Yeah, it is something like that. I'm excited. Our trend is going the same way. I'm taking the Chiefs. Something I'm absolutely looking for, and I actually got to go put this in, but I'm taking whatever the line is for the first half, I'm taking the Browns. I think the Chiefs are going to come out super rusty. I think they haven't had to try, like you're saying. They haven't been trying. They've just been winning lately, which is, again, that's all they needed to do. They just need to win. But they haven't, they've always just, in the fourth quarter, all right, let's flip the switch and let's go win this game. And I think that they're going to come out rusty and then kind of knock that off at halftime and then come blow them out in the second half. So, but I think 10 points, I think that seems about right. To be honest, I think it actually might be exactly 10 is what I could see the end game being, but I'm going to go with Kansas City to cover that 10 points.
Yep. What do you think of how the Browns played last week against the Steelers? Do you think a lot of it was talent, situational, got off to the right start? What do you think? Do you think the Browns are going to be more like the Browns we've seen, or do you think they're going to be the Browns that we might have saw last week and in the loss to Baltimore in that great Monday night game like a month ago?
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, a game like against the Steelers last week is hard to take anything away from, right? Because you had a couple of fluky plays at the beginning that, they had touchdown right away. And then I think there was a pick 6 right after that, right?
Yeah.
So and then when that happens, your whole game script changes, right? You're now playing basically prevent defense the whole game just to make sure you don't get any quick scores. So then it's like, okay, their defense didn't look great against Ben Roethlisberger. Yeah, they had the 4 picks, but like we were saying earlier, Ben still threw for 500 yards and had 1 million completions. Like, Okay, so what do you take away from that? It's pretty hard. And then on offense, they didn't have to do much. They just had to keep running the ball and keep scoring, but they didn't have to, push or come back or do anything. So
maybe this is Mahomes' 700-yard game. You've been talking about it. You tried to lay it down against Atlanta a few weeks ago. Maybe he gets there.
Well, everybody's talking about this. I was watching ESPN this morning and everybody already was talking about it. But do you know what happened when they played in college?
I know it was a massive game. I think Baker got the better of him, but it was like 50-47 or something.
Yeah. So the final score was 66-59.
Wow.
Patrick Mahomes was 52 of 88 for 734 yards. He had 819 yards total and 5 touchdowns. Baker was 27 of 36 for 545 yards and 7 touchdowns. So it was an insane game. These are very different teams and very different situations than it was then. But yeah, I could see Mahomes going off. I think the issues for them is that if for Cleveland to win or cover, they need to run the ball a ton and they need to keep it low scoring and keep it close and make the Chiefs grind it out. They need to take a similar approach of just don't let them get a quick score. If you make them go 7 yards every single play, the Chiefs can do it, right? They can go 7 yards for 10 straight plays and get a touchdown on you, but make them do that. Don't let them get that 50-yard completion to Tyreek Hill. Don't let them get, 25 down the middle to Travis Kelce. You've got to keep those big plays to a minimum. And if you can just keep them there, and then in the run game, you just grind it out on the other end, I think you can kind of squeak it out at the end. But I think if you're trying to get into a high-scoring game, you cannot do that against the Chiefs. You just can't do that against the Chiefs.
But that's definitely what you want. We got an over-under 57. You taking the over or the under?
Under. I think that's really high, and things go crazy. It'll be interesting. I think, like we keep talking about, if the Browns can score an early touchdown, I think that it's going to be a low-scoring game. Because then the Chiefs will always keep coming back. But I think the Browns run game is so solid that they can then just afford to run it. Whereas if the Chiefs get out to an early lead, I think then all of a sudden the Browns are having to play comeback and they're having to throw the ball a ton. And then you can start seeing that overhit. So, but like I said, if I'm talking about my game script or how I think the game will go, I think that it's going to be a low scoring first half. And then it's going to be the Chiefs are going to come out strong in the second half. So in that case, I think that the Browns will be able to kind of just run the ball all over them.
All right. I love it. I got to run back to the Rams-Packers game. I never got to you. What are we looking backs-wise? We saw a lot of Malcolm Brown last week at Seattle.
Well, we saw a ton of Cam Akers, and so it was just kind of getting in and out. I think Cam Akers still coming off of an ankle injury. Cam Akers had like 30 rushes last week. I don't know why Malcolm Brown ever gets the ball. He's horrible.
I heard everyone just loves him on the team.
Yeah, and he's
super likable, like a James Conner.
Yeah, everyone loves him. He's an awesome guy. He doesn't complain. He's been a backup his whole career, and he's always just been happy with his role. The thing about him too, where I'm never upset that he plays, he's awesome in pass protection. He's really good at blitz pickup. So I like that portion of it, but they have him in there as this short yardage back. And I think he got stuffed on 3rd and 1, 4 times last week. Right. So I don't understand what he's doing. And Cam Akers on the flip side was running all over Seattle last week. And so it's kind of why are you ever running anybody else? And the only explanation is Cam still is last week was working through an ankle injury. So I think every once in a while they just gave him a breather to make sure he's okay. And then, because at the end of the game, I don't know if you saw, but he looked like he kind of tweaked his ankle a little bit, but more of just kind of rolled up on something that had already been, a little bit sore. So I think it'll be fine. I think Cam Akers it's going to be a heavy dose of Cam Akers this week.
Yeah. All right. So I got Browns for the spread, and I got Chiefs straight up, and you got Chiefs.
Yep.
Got it. All right. Now we got Bucks at Saints. I'm excited for this one. 3:40 on the West Coast on Sunday tomorrow. Tom Brady's going to get his revenge. He's going to get it.
That's what you think?
I think so. New Orleans -3. I'm taking the Bucks.
So I've gone back and forth 1,000 times on who I think in this game. And I think based on how our trend has gone, I'm going to take New Orleans and just go on the opposite side of you. I don't know either way. I think it can happen. It's interesting because you always hear, I heard this stat today, you always hear that, it's hard to beat a team 3 times, right? It's really hard to do that. So the stat is over the last 25 years, 12 times a team has swept somebody in the regular season and then played them in the playoffs, right? So exactly what's happening this week. How many times do you think that team has won a 3rd time?
I think at least 7, because I know a lot of those are AFC North situations with the Ravens and Steelers. So I think it's way more than people think.
Yeah, 9 out of the last 12 times.
Yeah.
So, you always hear it's hard to beat a team 3 times, and it's like, it's actually not that hard to beat a team 3 times. So it'll be interesting to see. It's going to be a fun game. I think it's going to be a very fun game. Again, like, it's kind of one of those things like we were talking about with Cleveland. I don't know what to take away from that Bucs game last week. The Bears are just so bad that it's kind of like, or no, that was New Orleans
game.
Yeah, Saints. I don't know what to do about that. The Bears are just so bad. And then, the Bucs did not look great against Washington with their 7th string quarterback, a backup XFL quarterback.
Love Heineke. Do you like that run?
Yeah. Oh, he's a legend. He's awesome. But how are you keeping that a close game? If you think you're winning the Super Bowl, especially when they've talked about how they have a good defense, right? And I've been the first person to say, I think they have a good defense. I don't know how you can have that even be a close game. They should have come in and blown the doors off of them. And so I don't understand, especially when it is the other part too, is I think the Rams are Super Bowl contender, but they're never going to blow anybody out because it's their defense. So that's fine. But the Tampa Bay has supposedly this awesome offense, which they do. But how is that a close game? How do you not keep them? How do you not hold that defense or offense? And then how do you not blow them out on the other side?
Well, you got Bruce Arians as your head coach. The definition of inconsistency. Man, the Steelers just crank out inconsistent offensive coordinators. So we had Bruce Arians. We fired him. He went to Arizona. Then we got Randy Fichtner, who we just can't stand either. Now he's gone. He'll probably be an inconsistent head coach somewhere soon too.
Well, you had Todd Haley in there too.
What?
You had Todd Haley in there too.
Todd. No, and you know who we had also? Ken Wissenhut.
Oh yeah, he's horrible also.
Who also went to Arizona, and then we beat him in the Super Bowl when it was Steelers Cardinals. Man, no, I think this game's nuts because I really think the Saints could blow out the Bucs.
Yeah.
I think it could be ugly. I think it could be like Browns Steelers.
Mm-hmm. I do too.
Completely go the wrong way on them.
Yeah, I do too. And it's going to be a fun game. I hope it's a good game. I hope it's everything that people are talking about. I hope that it's going to be close. I hope it's not a blowout, but it's going to be interesting. It's just crazy when you think about how old these quarterbacks are, how all of these things, there's just so many narratives going on here. I think that's what they're talking about, that this week, it's so interesting, the narratives in each game, right? So you go Rams Packers, and it's LaFleur used to be a coach with McVay. They're best friends. That's a cool narrative. Buffalo, Baltimore, you have probably the 2 best quarterbacks in that draft class. Okay, who's going to get the better of each of them? Also, never done great in the playoffs, finally got their first win, both elusive, stuff like that. I think that'll be a great game. Cleveland, Kansas City, I think you have one. Cleveland is just a narrative in and of itself, right? That's crazy that they're doing this. And then Baker versus Mahomes, right? They played in college, all of those things. And then the last one, you just have these 95-year-old quarterbacks that are doing that. The other thing, I also saw this that's pretty funny. So the average age of a quarterback in the AFC playoffs left is 23, or it's 24 is the average age. In the NFC, it's 37, and that's factoring in a 26-year-old Jared Goff. So that's it's crazy. Just think about, you have a 38-year-old Rodgers, and then 42 and 43 in that last game. That's insane.
Yeah, I love the narratives. Give me your top, rank these like I did last week, top to bottom, what you're most excited about, least excited about. Give me the games in rank order.
So I'm most excited. I'm almost even going to take the Rams out of it because I'm most excited for the Rams game because that's my team.
Just put it in there, whatever.
Okay, so I'll take the Rams first. I think Buffalo, Baltimore second. I think that's going to be an awesome game. I think that's going to be a ton of fun. I think Chiefs, Browns would be number 3, and then New Orleans, Tampa Bay. The thing is, though, that's really just splitting hairs because I think these are all going to be super fun games, and I'm excited across the board. Yeah. I just think, like we were talking about, I could see New Orleans coming in and making it ugly quick, and then it's just kind of like, all right, whatever, let's just get this over with. For
sure. Even though I'm the same, I'm actually the same as you pretty much on these ranks, even though we're on the other side of the picks. I got Rams, Packers, Ravens, Bills. I'm going to go Bucs, Saints 3, and then Browns, Chiefs 4. The Browns, Chiefs game, I think it could be a slower game, like you talked about, not as exciting as some of these other games that I think are going to have a lot of electricity on defense and offense.
Totally. Yeah.
Which is weird to say when you have Patrick Mahomes and Baker Mayfield, like you said, who had this 800-yard game. But I agree with you on this is a completely different situation. NFL, it could actually be the least exciting game this weekend.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think I put him in there just because I want Cleveland to win, right? I think that'd be so awesome. I think that'd be so cool for them to keep winning. Do you, as a Steelers fan, I guess you don't even dislike the Browns. You can't dislike the Browns because they've just never been a threat. It's like Baltimore. I know you hate Baltimore. So, but you can't hate Cleveland because they're kind of like whatever. Now, do you hate Baltimore or Cincinnati more?
Baltimore for sure.
I feel like there were some years though where Cincinnati might have been that team.
They were, but we always won, even if they knocked out Antonio Brown. Yeah. Broke Ben's shoulder.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, I think with the Ravens, I don't even hate them as much now. I don't feel as much of a threat. Because we sort of like shoot ourselves in the foot now. That's the new trend. Whereas in the past, Baltimore was really solid and would knock us out. We kind of knock ourselves out now, as we saw last week in the Cleveland game. So I don't hate either of these teams in the AFC North like I did a few years ago, where I might feel threatened by them.
That's fair. That makes sense.
And they might be better now too, which is weird.
Yeah.
But it doesn't seem to ever be the case that we lose because they're so much better than us, especially this year.
Yep.
All right, NBA, some big things happen, Connor. Some big things.
James Harden. I don't know how that works. I don't know how this is going to work. It doesn't make any sense. I think you have probably, like no exaggeration, you have probably the three most emotional players in the NBA on the same team. All three of them are so dramatic, and Kyrie, James Harden, and Kevin Durant.
Let's say the three most emotional superstars.
Fair. Yeah, the three most emotional superstars. I think they all need the ball. Now, Kevin Durant is the one who can, work the best without the ball, but he's also the best player. So that's the hard part, is that he's the guy who can make it work of playing off ball and running off screens and doing all those things, but he's also your best player. So how do you factor that? I don't know how James Harden's going to play now as the second best player on a team where he can't just dribble 1,000 times. I'm excited. I hope he can do well. I hope he can kind of figure out how to do that, but I don't know how they're going to figure that out. And then Kyrie Irving, first of all, I don't even know if he's playing anymore. He just doesn't show up. So I don't know what's going on there. And then he also is now going to be the third best player. He needs the ball in his hands. He needs to dribble a bunch. The biggest thing. So like as a Laker fan, I'm already penciling the Lakers into the NBA championship. I already think they're going to win it, but I think about every time, okay, how are the Lakers going to match up? How are they going to do that? And it's going to be hard on defense to match up with them. I think the Lakers have the pieces to do it, because you can put Anthony Davis on Kevin Durant. You can put LeBron on James Harden, and then you can just put every other wing on Kyrie Irving. So I think we can make that work. But the thing I look at is, how are they going to defend at all? Those guys can't defend. Kyrie Irving and James Harden don't play defense. And so now you're basically depending on, in every single playoff series, Kevin Durant needs to be your best defender and guard their best player and be your best scorer, which you can't have. You can't have that on both sides, because you will wear out. And so you look at every team, they have their stoppers, and it's like you kind of let those guys work, right? With the Warriors, it was Klay Thompson was your defensive stopper and Draymond Green was, and they don't need the ball in their hands, right? Klay Thompson would catch and shoot, but he doesn't need to be getting in a rhythm and put in a lot of effort other than just like running. And so I don't know. I don't see a way that they make that happen. So I'm excited. I think, it'll be fun to watch them and watch them try to figure it out. But I think they're going to go through some big, big growing pains. And that is so much to give up for a guy that I don't know is a great fit. I thought it was going to be a much better fit if he went to Philly. I think that would have been awesome. If you traded Ben Simmons, and I think they were going to do Tyrese Maxey. It was Tyrese Maxey and Ben Simmons for James Harden. I think that's a perfect fit. I think James Harden then can do that, and you have a bunch of shooters, James Harden and Joel Embiid. I think that would have been perfect. And in that sense, you're reuniting James Harden with Daryl Morey. So I think that would have been a great fit. But I don't know how they're gonna make this work. It'll be fun. James Harden's also so fat, so I don't know when he's ever gonna lose weight. But it'll be fun. I'm excited as a basketball fan.
I love it. I love all of it, man. So fun. It's just a circus. The whole trade was a circus.
Totally. Yeah. The NBA is by far, the NFL is the most fun on court product. The NBA is by far the best. If you think about all the narratives and off the court stuff, they are by far the best.
You didn't take for a second the whole Kyrie. You just threw out the window all this Kyrie drama right now. You're like, he'll eventually be back and he'll be playing ball. I have just a circus. Yeah. You're talking about the NBA finals.
Yeah. I think they still will. I think what I heard is they actually might try to trade Kyrie Irving to get some depth, which I think would be smart, which is so wild that all these things would be happening. But I think they are, just because I also don't know.
I think a team will take Kyrie.
Someone would.
You think?
Yeah. He's good.
He would be so mad.
Kyrie. Yeah, for sure. But for sure. But I just think, I don't know. When thinking about, how do they go to the NBA finals? you look in the East, and I don't know what teams are necessarily great in the East, right? You look at right now, I'm looking at the standings. Boston's in first. I think they're probably the best team in the East, but they're still young and haven't really done it yet. Yeah, Milwaukee, who's super solid. I like their pieces. I like Drew Holiday there now, but also they've always choked it in the playoffs. The Sixers are never good in the playoffs. The Pacers, I don't know if they just got better with Karis LeVert instead of Oladipo. I think they long-term did because they now have 3 years of him. But again, I don't know if that's much better. And then you have Brooklyn in the 5 seed right now. So it's like, you kind of look at that and I don't know who's good out of that group. Honestly, it's pretty crazy right now because I've been watching a ton of Laker games lately, and it truly is the Lakers, and then like 3 steps down is everybody else. There's no one else even in the same neighborhood as the Lakers right now.
James Harden was spot on in his press conference.
That they're just not good?
No, that the Lakers were just so much better.
Oh, yeah, they are.
Well, I mean, he's just saying about the Rockets, but you're saying, yeah, it pretty much applies to everyone.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's crazy how they can do it. And now guys are playing so well too. Like KCP and Caruso are both shooting over 50% from 3. Like if you can have anything even close to that, I don't even care. They don't need to stay at 53%, whatever they are right now. But if they can stay at 45%, there's no playing against this Lakers team. You can't do anything. That's the only knock you could have on them is they don't have a ton of shooting. But if those guys can start hitting shots and you can have some other guys and Wesley Matthews is coming back now, it's game over. It's game over.
All right. Well, you got to justify your whole Kings thing because I think they've just lost a bunch of games since your big prediction last week. You holding steady with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a chance. I think especially now with Houston's going to be that team that drops out of the playoffs. So there's a new playoff slot open, right? Because Houston's not going to be in there. You worry because you think now probably Golden State is the team in there, but also Oklahoma City's out. So I think there's some stuff in here. But I definitely think the Kings can. Again, hey, I'm doing bold predictions. I wasn't doing just the safe predictions. I think my safe prediction is Lakers are winning the championship.
Multiple championships, bold predictions.
You got to do it. You can't be right every time. Listen, if you're right 100% of the time, you're not taking big enough risks.
Listen, I want to end on something real fun. We'll wrap this up. We'll keep it compact, tight for y'all this week is divisional NFL round week. But I want to hear, you said three craziest players in the NBA on the same team. My craziest player, who's your favorite craziest player? Mine's Montrezl Harrell. I love
Montrezl is crazy. What about Boogie?
I love Boogie, but he's been mellow. He's sort of like a dormant volcano. He might just blow off this year now that they need him on Houston.
Yeah, I like Montrezl. He's an interesting guy because I never watched a ton of him. I watched him in the playoffs and stuff with the Clippers, but playoffs he's not as effective. He's so interesting the way that he can score. He scores in the weirdest ways, and it's so effective, though. Yeah, crazy angles, crazy shots, but they work. And so, as somebody who's just like, I'm just getting to know Montrezl.
Man. I'm thinking of some of the ways he throws it off the backboard. It's bonkers.
Totally. And
everyone at 24-Hour Fitness, I used to play basketball as a younger kid. Everyone has a friend who's like a Montrezl, like that smaller, big guy who works in the weirdest ways. Can you think of a guy that you know who does that?
Yeah, there's a guy I played with in high school who was our starting center who was 5'11". And so, but he was exactly like that. But I mean, Montrezl is so skilled. I wouldn't necessarily say this guy was super skilled, but yeah, Montrezl is good. The hard part is he's just such a liability on defense. But I think you look at him on the Lakers and he's going to absolutely be a problem during the regular season. And that's why they got him, right? They need Schroeder and Montrezl to kind of carry this team on those nights when LeBron or Anthony Davis don't want to put in a ton of effort. Because think about this one. The Lakers won the championship. Somebody just said this, which I don't know if the math checks out, but it's kind of close. The Lakers won the championship like 90 days ago.
Yeah.
Like that's insane. They just won the championship and they're already 14 games into the season. So it's going to be
messing everything up. So it's a wild season. The Lakers are incredible. They're going to win the championship again. I think I honestly don't even think it's close. I was watching them the other day and I texted one of my buddies. We should get him on. He'd be my Laker guy, but I honestly don't see them losing a game in the playoffs. Like that actually might be my new bold prediction. Lakers go 16-0 in the playoffs. I don't know. That's too much, Berg. I'm going to leave you on the Kings.
All right. I think the Kings, there's hope.
NFL divisional round weekend. Enjoy it. We'll see you next week.
See you guys.